guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today, I want to do a couple of things. First of all, I want to share with you some of the stuff I've been wearing pretty frequently or using or carrying lately. So you might call this a little bit of a most carried for winter 23, 24. But what I actually want to do more is share some stories of times that gear really came through for me, and then invite you to do the same thing. So I'd love to see down in the comments, you guys share some stories. Part of the reason I want to do this is, often we get asked as gear enthusiasts, okay, why we carry the stuff that we carry. And so part of it is, this video can be a bit of an apologetic for being a little bit aware and prepared so that, you've got the things that you need when you need them. Um, the other part can just be sharing some stuff that you might find interesting and maybe inspires you to kind of think about what you carry and what else you may want to carry or may not want to carry. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is, I've got these watches out here. I'm not going to go into a big long discussion over every one of them, but I will say these are the watches that find their way onto my wrist the most often, with this watch as well being a recent addition. So of course, this is a Mudmaster. I've actually been wearing it a little bit today. I took it off for this video. This is the GG1000. So it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that some of the Mudmasters do, but it's still got a lot on offer. I'm not going to do a full review, but it does tie into my first story. And that's the story I've kind of told before, but I'll tell it again. I actually got the watch here that I was wearing at the time. This is a Pro Trek. And back in the day, I was actually turkey hunting, and I was wearing that watch. Um, my phone died, and I got a little bit turned around, and because of the compass on the watch, I was able to get a bearing and figure out how to get out of there. Just a really stupidly simple story, and for most of us, most of the time, you'd be able to pull up the compass on your phone or even the Google Maps on your phone and get out of most situations. But in this case, I just kind of miscalculated. I think maybe due to the cold, my phone battery died, and I was kind of in a bad way. I was in unfamiliar territory. I kind of knew where the big highway was, so I was north of a major highway, and so I knew if I turned south and walked to the highway, I'd be okay. The problem was I just didn't know where that highway actually was until I got a compass out and figured it out. That's just one story that ties in nicely to the new addition to the watch collection, um, which, by the way, I think you can probably see I have a bit of a type. I tend to steer toward larger watches, and certainly these two, the Victorinox, Inox, and the Mudmaster, um, are definitely on the larger size. I will say this, the Mudmaster is surprisingly impressively comfortable for its size. And I really like watches that sort of stand out in a particular area like that. And I also like watches that are kind of big. Okay, next story goes with a different gear item. So let me get some of these watches out of the way and bring in this Nightcore EDC 27. This came from Thunderbird Gear, by the way. And as last I checked, Steve did still have some in stock over there. This is an absolutely phenomenal light. It's easy to carry. It's not too expensive. It's stupidly bright, and I do have a review coming of this. In fact, the most of the review is recorded. I just haven't had time in the evening to go out and shoot the nighttime stuff. I've got two kids in hockey, and so essentially every single night of the week we just go to the arena and we never get to go home. But I will get the beam shots, nighttime comparisons recorded here shortly. But I just wanted to throw this out there and say I love this light. It's easily my most carried light after receiving it from Thunderbird Gear, and it goes along really well with a story that I want to tell, and that is about a time that I was in a movie theater and the people right beside us, they weren't people we knew, um, but they were sitting nearby. They were maybe a couple of seats over, and the lady lost her wallet and couldn't find it anywhere. And of course, the theater was all in darkness. And I kind of heard the commotion, and I kind of was like, what's wrong, guys?" And she said, "I can't find my wallet anywhere. I had it right here. Now I don't know where it is." And I was able to lend her my flashlight. It wasn't the EDC 27. I think it was a small Olight at the time that I was carrying. Maybe this one right here, the S2 Baton. This is kind of older, but still a great light. And it did save the day. I said, "Hey, I carry a flashlight here. You want to borrow it?" And she was so grateful, and just repeatedly and repeatedly was like, "Thank you so much. You totally saved my life here. I was completely in trouble without this." So I tell that story for a couple of reasons. First of all, again, it's a great reminder to those who are doubtful that it's worthwhile carrying all the stuff that we carry. All right. Um, but two, it gives me a chance to talk about something that I haven't got a get to review yet. The EDC 27 from Nightcore is phenomenal. I cannot say enough about how good it is. I like the Arkfeld as well, and it's almost as good, but this delivers all the brightness and capability of like a full-on tactical flashlight, like my Warrior or my um, what I actually have two Warriors, two different versions. But it's pretty well serves the same role as them, but in such a slim, comfortable package to carry that it's really, really excellent. For EDC purposes, the Arkfeld is still great, and I do carry it quite often. But I will say these two lights have sold me on this form factor for sure. Uh, Next story. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Let's see. Here's another knife to throw in. This is the Wee Thug XL in carbon fiber. I love this knife. Check out, it's just absolutely gorgeous. One of the nicest things that Wee has done. I'm pretty well convinced. If this is not the nicest, it's on the very, very short list of, maybe a very few models where Wee has really done just a great job of a great design. The Malice would be on that list as well. Some of the Ferrum Forge collabs would, I think, make that list. So anyway, great knife. Not the knife in the story, but that's okay. It can still take center stage. We were out with some friends, and the funny thing is, they both worked in an office, and we were chatting about different things, and I somehow it came up that I always carry a knife, and I can't remember. Maybe I even took the knife out to cut something, and they sort of made some comments like, "What do you have that for? Like, why do you need a knife?" The kind of thing that is typical of people who, are not used to, having to take care of themselves. And they gave me a really hard time about having a knife. So whatever, that's fine. We carry on with dinner, and then afterward we went down. We were going to go out and sit on a beach. There was a picnic table, and we had brought some snacks with us. Well, it turns out the husband from the couple that we were going with, he couldn't get this bag of candy open that he had brought with him, and he was like fighting and pulling, and like nothing would work. And so finally, with a certain amount of trepidation, he's like, "Kevin, can I borrow your knife?" And so of course I happily let him borrow my knife. Uh, got him to open up his package of, it was some kind of candy. I can't remember what kind of candy it was now, but I thought, yeah, this is so perfect that he gives me a hard time about carrying a knife, and then sure enough, if he doesn't need a knife. So another knife story. Do I have a good example? No, we'll have to pull in the line steel M2M over here. Really great fixed blade. This is a fixed blade story, so I'm going to tell it. I don't always, but a lot of times if I'm working, I'll throw a fixed blade on my tool belt or in my backpack or somewhere I've got a substantial fixed blade. I also sometimes do, I might do like a hatchet or uh, I've got the CRKT Kanji sort of tactical tomahawk thing. I'll carry that around if I'm on a work site, and I can't tell you how many times I've needed to chop that ability to chop and be a little more destructive has been useful. In this case, the knife I happened to have with me was a Mora Bushcraft Black, and um, we were working away and did not anticipate whatsoever the need for a knife. But in fact, what we're doing, we were positioning pads on the ski hill. If you've been to a ski hill, you know that they put pads in front of the guns in case someone loses control and would ski into a gun well. At least there's a little bit of padding there that'll hopefully mean it's a less severe break instead of or a less severe concussion. You're still going to get hurt if you hit a gun going at high speed, but it might not be as bad because of the pads. Anyway, so we're out there setting pads, and this one hill was so overgrown, and there were all these branches growing out into the way of what we needed. A hatchet or a pair of clippers or something would have been better. The only thing I had on me was a more bushcraft black, but that knife like saved the day. We had so many branches to cut off, and it turned out that everyone was calling for the knife because I kind of showed them how if you bend a branch over and cut into the bent side, that tension makes it cut easier. And so everyone was using it and making very short work of all of these, sort of saplings that had grown into the path on the ski hill. Just another example of when a fixed blade really, really came in handy. And I think, this knife, because it doesn't have the zero grind, you may have had to put a little more pressure on it, but it would have done the same job. And this is actually a fixed blade you could easily EDC. It's not very big, very comfortable in hand, really, really capable blade shape there. This is a very, very favorite fixed blade of mine. Almost, I go back and forth between whether I like this or the M4 the most. In terms of more of an EDC fixed blade, to be in all honesty, my favorite fixed blade is absolutely my um, Morgan Cohen bushy fixed blade. This thing is an absolute beast, and I've been working a little bit on a review of this, but it really it's almost perfect because it can do fine detailed tasks. It can do kitchen work. It can chop. It's got a bit of weight to it, a bit of heft to it. So it's kind of like a survival knife plus, where it can serve the role of a survival knife, but it could also skin out an animal and prepare food and just do everything that you would need your knife to do. This is an absolute beast of a knife, and I enjoy it to no end. All right, next story, guys. I've got another story. This time we were at a camp that I often help out with, and there's some guys out by the fire, and I just happened to walk by, and they were like, "Hey, Kev, what's going on?" And so we started chatting, and then I realized as I'm talking to them, they've been trying to start this fire, and they've been trying to start the fire for like, half an hour. And so I'm like, "What are you guys doing? Can I take a look?" And as I go over to kind of see what exactly they're up to, what kind of efforts they're making at the fire, I realize that, they have kindling, but it's kindling that was like cut up a month ago and has been sitting outside, and they've got a few wadded up newspapers, and they're hoping that the kindling, which is probably, it's fairly thick kindling, like an inch or 2 inches diameter, fairly thick, substantial kindling, which isn't going to light that easily. And so they were just having no end of trouble. So I went over and I said, "Guys, look, can I give it a try?" And they were like, "Okay, yeah, 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 that's fine." At first they were a little hesitant, but they were like, "Yeah, sure, what the heck." So I took just a log that had been there longer, split it down, and used the dry kindling from inside. And I happened to have my para 2 on me that day. So I was able to use the para 2 to sort of make a bit of a fire stick. And when they saw me like whittling at the stick, they were like, "What are you doing?" But when they saw the results, they were completely amazed. And actually, um, the old saying, the sincerest form of flattery and all that stuff. So, um, I went out there the next day, and if I didn't see one of the guys doing the exact thing, just copying what I had done to get the fire going for the next day. All right. So, again, I think there are many, many examples. And guys, I would really love to hear your examples as well. And depending on how the stories go, if I get a bunch of really good stories, I may make a follow up video just talking about all the cool stories that you guys have so I can sort of reflect on those and comment and share with the group. Um, but last story here, and this is one that's probably a little more important. Let's grab a different flashlight this time. We have the look at this flashlight. This is one of the coolest looking lights I think that's out there. This really scratches that, high end EDC light, Instagram influencer type of light. This is the Ace Beam E70 Mini. Okay, this is not the light that I had at the time. In fact, the light that I had was the Olight Warrior. Can't remember which one. Anyway, doesn't matter. Um, but we get a fire call to the docks. And what had happened was a couple had come in with their boat. It was like late October. It was kind of miserable weather. They had come in with their boat and set the dog out on the dock. Were unloading all of their stuff. And for some reason, the dog just got spooked, or yeah, I don't know what happened exactly, but the dog leaps in the river. And they're calling it back to shore, and for some reason the dog swims the wrong way. I can only assume it was trying to get to like land instead of being stuck on the dock. The dog swims the wrong way. It was absolutely thick fog by the time we got there, and we have to it's a sort of an enclosed area, and there's the mouth of a river. um, or there's sort of an enclosed area where the boats can dock, and then it kind of goes around a corner, but there's a break wall to help with wake, and you kind of go around the corner to get to escape from the lee of the break wall, and you can get out into the water. So right away we put a couple of guys sort of at where the mouth would be to make sure this dog didn't somehow drift out into the lake, and we're searching everywhere, and all we had were these nearly worthless. I mean, they're fine in a structure fire, but we had a bunch of chest lights that you usually see on firefighters turnout gear, and they were, you know, only getting a beam like maybe 15 feet, so it sucked for that. They just were not doing the job that we needed to have done, not in the least. And so luckily, I had I driven my truck to the fire hall, and we had to go back to the fire hall to get some stuff anyway. And I'm like, look, I'm going back. I'm gonna go back with one of the officers. So I go back. I went straight to my truck. I grabbed a couple of lights, one of which was my Warrior, one was just my regular EDC light, but it was still way better than the lights that we were using, because it was maybe 500 lumens or something when we were lucky to get 200 out of the lights we had. And so I ended up being able to provide two decent lights that really allowed me and one other guy to do a bulk of the searching. Luckily, we found the dog. The dog had sort of washed up to shore on the other side, and I was able to climb down a little ledge to, some of the big rocks that they use for a break wall. I was able to climb down onto those rocks. The dog was down there. I was able to, it was just by luck of the draw, and the fact that I had a better light than everybody else, that I was able to find this dog. And in fact, the dog was okay. At first, I thought he was dead. I'll be honest. When I picked him up, he was cold. His body was cold. But as I kind of scooped him under my arms and I was carrying him, I could actually feel a heartbeat. So I knew that there was at least a heartbeat there. And by the time I carried the dog to the back of one of the fire trucks, we had actually a vet had shown up on scene. We had called for a vet to see if that was a possibility, and sure enough, a vet had come. And so, anyway, the dog turned out to be fine. The vet dried the dog off, warmed him up, checked his vitals, and everything was okay. But I will say, I did have a moment of real, like, I was really crestfallen because when I saw the dog, it wasn't moving. When I went to pick it up, it didn't move. It didn't acknowledge me in any way, and it had been in cold, cold water, so the body felt freezing cold. And so I was like, great, I'm gonna have to. I even asked one of the other firefighters if they could distract the owners because I didn't want them to see their dead dog. Anyway, luckily the dog was okay, and it came out to be a happy ending. But part of it was because I had some decent gear and was able to do a better job searching with a better quality light. All right, guys, those are the stories I've got for you. I haven't talked about every bit of gear that I've got on the table, but just suffice to say, anything you see here, I did go around and get all this to make sure that I'd be able to. Uh, I was going to sort of talk about gear that I've been carrying the most lately, but all of this stuff has been used by me quite a bit in the last little while. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And what I really would love for you to do is share your stories about how your gear came through for you in a pinch down below.